So you found the skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I don't know research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the ICR Strikes Back. That's Gish with Vish 6. Wanted to make sure that I didn't have it wrong, because I know we're off from the Star Wars episode numbering, but also we're probably going to name these in, like, release order, so it's just going to get worse from here on out, because after this one it's going to be, 7 with whatever Return of the Jedi turns out to be, but then it's going to go all the way back to, like, The Phantom Menace as, like, number 8, so, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Vishanti, how are you?
Well, I've clawed my way out of a migraine cave, and I'm not looking forward to the insane amount of rain and wind that we're about to get tomorrow because of Hurricane Hillary.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being here because I know that yesterday was a pretty rough day.
Oh, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah. Alia Jane.
I'm so mad because a combination of climate change and El Nino is making the surface water temperature further north water higher than normal and warmer than normal.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at more of a risk for stuff like this happening, and that's not cool.
Yeah, this might be your just the first hurricane of a plethora, possibly.
Please no.
Yeah, you don't normally get normally you don't worry too much about hurricanes over there on the West Coast, but then suddenly,
yeah, we only ever get like the remnants of rain and wind, but no hurricane or tropical like storm has ever actually made landfall in Southern California. So
hey, this could be the year.
Please no.
All right, Alia Jane, who's been a member for 8 months and is at the Seropsid level, says, reach out to a friend or family member today. You never know who's struggling with depression, with a Godzilla and a pelagic tunicate. So first, we'll drink for the Godzilla, because we're doing drinking rules. And second, that is true. A lot of times when people do things that YouTube would rather that I never talk about, even though I'm currently, trying to help with this problem. Also, hey, 124 days. The people around them didn't know that was a thing that they were thinking about, and that they had that problem with considering hitting Alt F4 on their life processes, trying to get around the YouTube automatic demonetization robots. And so sorry, got a little think the some of that carbon went the wrong way. Anyway, yeah, check on your friends and family. See how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just check in. If someone seems to not be doing well, try to make some plans so that they have a reason to, complete those plans. Because sometimes that's all it takes, right? It's like, oh, well, I would have, but I was expected to be at like, my friend's board game night. Or I was going to watch a movie with a friend on Friday, so I didn't. It can be just that simple. Sometimes people just need a little reason to make it to the next day. And whatever reason it is a perfectly valid reason. Well, we are here, of course, to take a look at Duane Gish. Now, we only have 9 minutes and 9 seconds left of this video. I think I know we're going to get through it today, right? Even if we have to stay a little bit longer just to get through the full 9 minutes and 9 seconds, or if we get through it fast, then that's great too. And last time we left off where we were just about to start talking about birds. So if you remember before, we were talking about bats and insects, because you got to start with the area where we have the least evidence about how these things evolved, right? So that way you can set up the idea that there's no such thing as transitional fossils, don't worry about it. But then we get to birds, where we have a lot of evidence as to how they evolved flight, a lot. And so we're gonna have to see what Mr. Gish here has to say about that. At least I think it's Mr. Gish. Is it Dr. Gish? I can never remember. I know that the other one, who was the other really old, like, OG ICR
Henry
guy?
Morris,
yeah. I'm pretty sure he had a doctorate in like
engineering or something.
Yeah. But because it's a drinking stream, we're going to go over those rules real quick before we get right into the actual video. Now, we've already had one occur, which is that if anyone super chats or membership milestone chats, and they use one of the kaiju emojis, like Alia Jane's use of the Godzilla, but we also have Ghidorah and King Ghidorah and Mothra. I was about to say King Mothra, I was like, no. She's the queen of the monsters. She's not King Moth. That's not how it works. Unless you're watching the English dub of Godzilla versus the Thing, in which, for some reason, exclusively masculine pronouns are used of Mothra, which is weird. Anyway, yeah, we'll take a drink for any of those. We'll also take a drink if anyone super chats anything to the effect that AIG, that's Answers in Genesis, are a bag of dicks. Going to be a little clever with that one, because YouTube will try to censor you if you just put it in there. Oh, Liz D has informed me that the official title for Duane Gish is His Royal Numptiness Gish. Got it.
He is a numpty.
It's
I
true.
agree.
He is a numpty. Also, we will take a drink for every gifted membership. So if you are unaware, YouTube has a membership program where you can get things like early access to virtually all of my scripted videos. There have been a couple that have come out just sort of out of the blue, but those are usually not part of the regular sequence of events, the regular schedule. You can also get access to a few videos that I have that are just for members. Most of them are just like behind the scenes stuff, like, oh, hey, I put like the countdown timer that you saw at the beginning of the stream up there. I put some like animation tests for new avatars up there, stuff like that. But you can also gift those. So down in the section with little dollar where you make super chats, there's also an option to gift memberships. The people who get those are just added to the membership rolls for I think it's 30 days, I was going to say a month, but that's not a real unit of time. For 30 days, and then when it's over, they just get an email saying, oh, hey, your membership has expired, and they're prompted if they would like to continue, then they can enter payment information, but they just don't have to, and then it just ends, and that's it. No obligation, no nothing. So for each of those gifted, we'll take a drink. Now, if someone gifts like 30 or more in a go, we're just going to finish the drink that we have and move on to the next drink and add that number to the drink count. I'm not going to sit here and count out 30 drinks. That's, DM, I'll have to do some research, Wing, for $5. Says, does it matter if he's actually a doctor? They're all doctors anyway. Screong with the Godzilla. Yeah, it's... Okay. On the one hand, it doesn't really matter about their arguments, but on the other hand, I do like to use the proper title for someone, right? Even if you're now abusing your degree, or you're just making no evident use of your degree, if you did the work to earn a doctorate, I think it's appropriate for people to use the title doctor with you in most circumstances. There are a few circumstances where it's not, like, generally speaking, in courtrooms, pretty much everyone is always just called Mr. or Miss or Ms. or Mrs. There's no, like, doctors or senators or Mr. Presidents in courtrooms normally, which has been upsetting a particularly orange person who might otherwise have such a title recently. Goop Do 3.
Hang on, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. Rico Law.
Goop Do 3 for $5 says, might not stay for long because I am Darwin's sleepiest warrior, but I hope you have a good stream. Well, I hope you have a good nap. Okay, so we will also take a drink if Duane Gish says something that's just too stupid, or if he actually gets something right and he's not just quoting someone else. Now, we will also take a drink if he cites a source, and when we check the source, it not only fails to support him, but it directly contradicts him. We call that Trojan source. We'll also take a drink if Duane Gish tells a joke that doesn't land, or tells a story that doesn't happen. So, for instance, if he were to say, mix up an argument that he won with his shampoo bottle with a discussion he had with a hypothetical Berkeley professor on a plane to nowhere, we'll take a drink for that. We will also take a drink anytime that Duane Gish mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party or various, leadership or high-ranking figures in that party, or various of their historically significant activities in the early to mid-20th century. If you don't know who the NSDAP are, feel free to Google it. I don't want to get demonetized this early.
Ugh.
Yeah. For some reason, creationists love to bring them up. Zybel1994 says, for €10, Furavara on Patreon. Oh, thank you very much. Finally, I am able to catch a stream again. I hope AIG have not proven their reputation as a bag of tunicates, which ones Dapper and Vish can argue. Obviously, they would be pelagic tunicates if they were tunicates at all.
Keep going. I have a recommendation for new bingo square, and I want to run it by the chat.
Okay, I would just say welcome back to being able to be on the streams. It's great to have you back. And the South Geek 2 Pelagic Boogaloo Official, who's been a member for 4 months, is at the Tetrapod level, says, "A like a day keeps the Bilbo away. Hashtag algorithm boost." Yes, please do hit like, because we are dangerously close to hearing from Bilbo. And Vishanti, what was your drink trigger that you wanted to run by chat?
Okay, so I proposed this on the Discord, but I want to run it by the chat. For a new drink trigger / bingo square or whatever, add hominid for when creationists try to attack Lucy, the specimen, specifically, or when they say like an obvious human ancestor is an ape, not a human. I would like to propose that as ad hominid.
I do like it.
Instead of ad hominem.
And technically, I'm not in charge of the bingo, so I can't make a decision on that. But, I mean, I do like it. All right, we'll also take a drink if Vishanti or I can predict what Duane Gish is about to say when it's not very obvious, right? If we're like, I don't know what he's going to go for, but we each hazard a guess. If one of us gets it right, we'll take a drink for that. We will also... Have I covered all of them?
I wasn't really keeping track.
If there's one that I haven't covered, we'll take a drink for it, because I'm sure I'll remember it when the time comes. And here's the caveat, of course, if you do decide to play along with any kind of inebriating substance, which absolutely you are under no obligation to do, you feel free to not play along or play along without anything inebriating. You can play with coffee, water, tea, soda, I don't care. But if you do play along and it's with an intoxicating substance, please be careful, know your limits. Don't go operate heavy machinery. Don't go chasing waterfalls. You know, I'm not responsible for any of the bodily injury or damage to property that you might cause as a result of you not sticking to the rivers and the streams that you're used to.
Rivers and lakes that you're
used to. Is it lakes?
To.
That's lame. It should be streams.
I own that. Listen, I still have that album on my phone, actually.
Nice.
I bought it when it came out.
And it just never came off your phone?
I listen to it regularly.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's Rivers and Lakes.
Rivers and Lakes. All right, I got it wrong. I don't have the lyrics in front of me, in case anyone's wondering. Nor have I listened to that song very recently. All right, I think with that, we're ready to hear what Gish has to say about birds, and Archaepteryx in particular, because we are looking at what I believe is the Berlin specimen. Although, I mean, again, I don't have, like, the Archaepteryx specimen list in front of me, so I could be wrong about that. So take what I say there with a grain of salt. Here we go.
But the evolutionist says, just a moment. We have Archaeopteryx. Now, there is a transition form.
I mean, yeah, it sure is. It's got separated wing fingers. It doesn't have a keeled sternum. It's got a toothy maw with no beak. It's got a long, bony tail. It has separate metacarpal and metatarsal bones, unlike birds, which fuse them. It's still got a very, very basal sort of coelurosaurian pelvis. That's basically the same thing as, like, a velociraptor pelvis. So yeah, it's a pretty great transitional form. So I wonder what Duane Gish is going to say makes it not transitional. But Valis, who's been a member for 5 months, is at the tetrapod level, says, "Oh, I forgot I have these." Mothra, enjoy a drink. Well, thank you very much. We will take a drink indeed for Mothra. There it is. Oh, and by the way, I'm drinking some Shock Top, because not only do I like it, but of the beer that isn't trash, that's like at the grocery store, it's like $1 cheaper than all the other ones. So, okay.
I had that in a while.
It's good stuff.
You know what I'm looking forward to having here in a couple weeks is Yingling, because I have a really hard time getting it on the West Coast for some reason. I can get it very easily in Georgia, so...
They have it at the international market around here, but they don't carry it in, like, just the regular old, like, Kroger. Yeah. But you know what, though? Like, it's the international market is just... I mean, it's a few more blocks away. It's like 1.5 miles or something. And it's where I get, like, bulk soy sauce and tofu and bulk kimchi. So, you know, it's not like I don't go there.
Well, I'm playing at a disadvantage because I live about, you know, less than a block away from an H-Mart, so...
How do they not carry it there?
Yingling?
Yeah.
Because it's an American brand. It's not actually, like, Korean.
Oh, it's like a Asian style beer made in America, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of like how, you know, Modelo Especial is actually owned by, I think, like, Budweiser.
Okay, yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, or like Tim Hortons, it's now owned by Burger King.
Oh my god, it's so cringe.
Yeah. Silver Harley, who's been a member for 17 months, says, "I can't think of a funny thing to say this month." That's okay. Fits of Rage for $5 says, "Hard to reschedule Disneyland trip," or sorry, had to reschedule Disneyland trip due to Hillary. That sucks. On the plus side, I get to tune in live to my favorite theropod with an attempt at a Godzilla, so we'll take a drink for the Godzilla attempt.
Yeah, the rain is going to start in this area like overnight, and basically all day tomorrow and part of Monday. It's just going to be rain, 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 wind, wind, wind.
Yeah.
Rain, wind, rain, wind.
Actually, even here
Ad infinitum.
in Arizona, we're getting extra rain and wind from all this. Not nearly as much as you're going to, but then again, we flash flood more easily than you do because our soil absorbs
drier.
no water at all. So
Yeah, it's going to be particularly nasty because of all the wildfires that have been going up the West Coast. It's made the ground really, really parched, and it doesn't absorb a lot of moisture, so once it hits capacity, it's like,
Yep.
Well, grab the sandbags!
Yeah. I actually live...
let's see. An intrigued feline says hello, Vish, in Korean. I can say, I think, one single thing in Korean, and it's 안녕하세요.
Well, that's what
and
was
I believe
typed.
that is... Yeah.
There
you go!
Yeah.
안녕하세요.
We got to get you...
Korean.
We got to get your Hangul reading up to snuff.
I mean, I know it's like something I could literally learn to read in a few hours.
Yup.
But I just don't. I probably should because 90% of my neighbors are Korean. So.
Plus, of all the alphabets in the world, Hangul is like the easiest one to learn. All right, here we go.
This bird, they say, have characteristics intermediate, or has some characteristics that are reptilian and some characteristics that are bird-like.
I would argue it has all characteristics that are reptilian, because that's how evolution works. Birds just are reptiles.
Yeah.
But at the time that this was given, people were still, even like actual like evolutionary biologists, were still really big on sticking to the traditional Linnaean classifications, even when they were paraphyletic or polyphyletic. Well, less so when they were polyphyletic, but even when they were paraphyletic. So like...
An intrigued feline says it is close but not quite accurate way to say that, which is what I tried to say. Please feel free to critique my Korean pronunciation because it is not good. I don't ever practice it, so.
Yeah, I don't practice my Korean either. I learned to read Hangul one time in high school on a plane ride from Chicago to Japan, where we were going to then go from Japan to Korea. And since then, I have not kept up with that, because it doesn't really come up much, so... Or not that Klingon comes up a whole lot.
I literally live, like, right on the edge of Koreatown, so...
Yeah, you should totally learn Korean.
You would think.
Showing that he came from a reptile. Well, here we see the reconstruction of Archaeopteryx.
If you say so, buddy, I can barely make anything out. This
is like 144p.
Basically, yeah. But that's, you know what? That's not Duane Gish's fault. That's the fault of whoever did this VHS rip. Because, spoiler alerts, VHS are higher definition than 144p. They're 420.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could... like 580 by 420. You could just rip it to a higher definition. But they chose not to. So I'm not going to blame Duane Gish for this. That's not his fault. He was not in control of the machine that did a VHS to DVD or rip or whatever that then got uploaded to YouTube. That wasn't him. Savage, Eric Hoban's Tie Collection Cobra, who's been a member for 9 months and is at the amniote level, says, Gish argues in his book that avian respiratory systems and hollow bones that they share with theropods are a good argument against birds being dinosaurs. Yeah, they always pick things that are like, look at all these things that birds do, but that theropods also did. That totally means they can't be theropods. Like, no.
It's like sitting here going, let's talk about why humans aren't apes. Yeah. Okay, good luck with that.
And then your first thing is like, look at their enclosed eye sockets. It's like, that's just a primate thing, my dude.
Yeah,
like,
it's just a primate thing.
Okay, but what about their Y5 molars? It's like, that's literally a diagnostic criterion for ape. What do you...
Yeah.
What do you want? All right, here we go.
Now, first of all,
what do you want me to do? Like, hold up a chicken and go, behold a man?
No, you have to do it in Latin for some reason, even though Diogenes is Greek.
Yes, I can't use Greek.
Yeah, no, not acceptable.
Imagine being such a legendary ship poster that, like, your ship posting survives millennia later. It's so great.
It would be amazing. Yeah, he is clearly history's greatest shit poster.
Hashtag Diogenes.
Mm-hmm.
Featherless chicken, yes.
Yes, it does have to be a featherless chicken. You have to either find a featherless chicken, which do exist, or you got to pluck one.
Okay. Thank you, Cross-Platform Adventures. The last time I had a coworker who spoke fluent Korean was a very, very long time ago, so my pronunciation slipped.
I think the last time I had a coworker who spoke fluent Korean was the Navy, where we had a guy whose name was Pak, and he was Korean.
So, annyeonghaseyo. Okay.
Yeah, Diogenes did pluck a chicken, but you could also find a naturally featherless chicken. They do exist.
Bird. He had the basic form and pattern of the avian wing. He had.
That's true. We'll take a drink.
No.
Of course, so did Velociraptor, but we don't want to talk about that.
My feeders coordinate to that art.
They do, actually. Yeah, that's nice. Although we actually, at this point now, happen to know that Archaepteryx was mostly black with slight iridescence, sort of like a crow, and not much like a bird of paradise or whatever's going on here.
It had the coloring of a quetzal.
Yeah, Goopdo3 for $2 says, I thought you said Wi-Fi molars. Now that would be cool. Why? 5. Like the number.
Why 5?
Yeah,
okay.
like the number of drinks we've had. 5!
Okay. Thank you, Don Giovanni, for going exactly where I was gonna go. Don Giovanni in the chat says, I'm still salty over A. Nasir's copper.
Alright, here we go.
Had feathers that were identical to the feathers of modern birds.
Basically,
feathers are very, very complicated structures. Now, the scale of the reptile is a flat, horny sheath.
No, that depends on the reptile that we're talking about. There are many different kinds of scales. Some of them are keeled, which means they're not flat. Some of them are little bump-like structures, which means, again, they're not flat. Like, I have a leopard gecko. Their scales are bumpy. They have like a round cross-section. They're not flat. You have also scutes, which are sometimes called scales, even though structurally they're not. They're actually underlying bone with a keratin covering rather than something that develops directly from a placode in embryonic development. But interestingly, placodes are what develop into hair in mammals, scales in animals that have scales, and also feathers in birds. And they all share the same network of developmental and regulatory genes that actually determine how they develop. And also, fun thing, there have been experiments with embryonic alligators where they used hormones to mimic the developmental signals that birds develop through that create scales in them. And it turns out that when you give these same developmental signals to embryonic alligators, instead of scales, they start growing little hollow proto-feather-like filaments. So, yeah. And also...
It's almost like feathers or modified scales.
Almost.
Almost.
Tittlelac Rosie, who's been a member for 4 months, is at the tetrapod level, says, Ceratosaurus is a bird. Just get over it. In fact, no, but...
That's why you have feeders sometimes.
Yes, definitely not because people pay me to.
Checkmate, atheists.
Although, hey, remember how last time I said that we hit the feeder number, and therefore, we'd let people vote to see...
Yeah, I know. I'm really sad, because
Yeah.
I really like the feeders.
Well, Cyberdapper won, so...
Cyberdapper is cool. I like the feeders.
Well, maybe if we can hit another feeder number today, people can vote for feeders this time. Of course, we have a ways to go until we're at that point. So, I'm not expecting it, but it could happen. See how... Zerillon? I can't read this far away. Zapperdapper. Yes, that is also a good name for the Cyberdapper, Zapperdapper. All right, here we go.
But a feather, on the other hand, has a central shaft.
No, those are pennaceous feathers. Many feathers do not. For instance, down. Oh, look at that. Savage Eric Hoven's tie collection has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships.
Oh yeah, one went to my sister. Or maybe she was already a member. I don't know.
Well, they went to Trail Mix,
Anyway, congratulations.
Tesla Ranger, Jerry Lotus, Alex Hood, and Vagri. So let's take some drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Which I think does put us about 20% of the way to the potential for another Feather Dapper. Or it might be the Dapper Zord. Alright, here we go.
It has the barbs that radiate from the shaft, have barbules hooked onto the barb, and little hooks on the barbule.
Actually, that's not just pennaceous feathers. That's like the full stage 5 feather. There are also feathers that have a bar, or that have a central rachis, but the strands that come off of them don't have barbs and barbules, like phyloplumes, which are actually used by birds for sensory information. And while you don't normally see them when you're looking at a bird, because they nestle between the more obvious contour feathers, they're still feathers, and they're all over the place. So what Duane Gish is doing is he's basically taking the most complex form of feathers, and then just pretending that that's just what feathers are. But that's not true. We also have bristle-like feathers that are basically just hollow filaments, and some birds use them like mammals use whiskers. So if you look at a bird, sometimes you'll see this little fan of little single strands coming out around the beak. Those are sensory feathers that are being used like whiskers. Savage, Eric Hoven's Tie Collection Cobra, says for $2, AIG is a bag of central shafts. So
Indeed.
we'll take a drink. And so
It would really be nice if this stupid little feature stolen from Instagram Live with the little live react hearts and emoji faces wasn't there, because it blocks chats that I would like to read.
look,
Liz D says, so is Archaepteryx a barbed girl in a barbed world?
so we don't actually have a lot of information about the feathers other than the contour and flight feathers on Archaepteryx. It's it's actually, I think, highly likely that it probably had things like phyloplumes, but as far as I know, we don't have direct evidence for them. So anything beyond the contour feathers and the flight feathers is technically speculative, but, I mean, every fossil animal had parts of their anatomy in life that we don't have direct evidence for. Like, we know that, right? Like, just for example, hey, I bet Archaeopteryx had gonads. Because otherwise, how would you get Archaeopteryx? And you know what we don't have any direct fossil evidence for? Gonads. But it's pretty likely that Archaeopteryx had them. We just can't say much about them. So I think it's the same thing for various non-pennaceous feathers. I think it probably did have non-pennaceous feathers here and there. For sensory reasons, there's a fair chance that Archaeopteryx hatchlings had downy feathers, which don't have a central rachis. Valus, for $5, said, also AIG is a parcel of pliant pipelines preordained to parade in perpetuity. Sorry, had trouble with that one. But we'll take a drink for it.
A lot of plosives.
Yeah, it was. Give me more fricatives next time, everybody. Fricatives are where it's at. Although, cross-linguistically, the P sound is one of the most common sounds in the entire world. Basically, every languages have it.
Huh.
Yeah. One of the few exceptions is actually Arabic, which only goes with the voiced option.
I was gonna say they yeah.
Yeah, Arabic was like, we don't need a P, we only have B.
And F.
Yeah, they do have an F sound. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But technically no V. But no V sound. Yeah, Arabic is weird. Despite being one of the most phonetically conservative Semitic languages, it has these really weird gaps in its phonology for just no apparent reason. So we're gonna have a B but no P, and an F but no V. Like, why?
Because of reasons.
Yeah, reasons. Okay.
And that allows the feather to be stiff, firm, and yet very light. And they are
stiff, firm, and very light. Very important for that central shaft.
Are designed for aerodynamic function. And they develop totally different.
Finn, who's been a member for 2 months and is at the amulet level, says, do you love limes or do you love lima? And do you prefer ripe limes or the evil unripe green on the outside that Big Lemon is selling?
Big Lemon.
So my preference for lemon versus lime is pretty context dependent. I prefer lemon in water, but I prefer lime in most cocktails. I like lemonade more than limeade. I don't know.
I'm team lemon for fish, and I'm team
Yeah.
lime for pretty much everything else, especially gin and tonic.
Oh yeah, gin and tonic with lemon. It's not disgusting, but it's not
It's just
acceptable.
not very good.
No, it's
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
not within acceptable parameters.
Or for gimlets, for that matter. Lime juice is a must for a gimlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which reminds me of that time I was in oh, where was I? I think it was someplace stupid like Montana. Sorry, Montanans. I went to
Hey, that's the place First Contact happened. Don't you talk bad about Montana.
Fair. And I went to a bar like after work, and I was just gonna sit and read a book and, you know, sip a cocktail. I ordered a gimlet, and the bartender was like, what's that? I was like, are you kidding me, man? So I taught him how to make a gimlet, and then he didn't know how to charge it, so he just charged me for the gin. I was like, all right, fine.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
Then the scale. The scale is merely a fold in the epidermis, while the
No, actually, we're going to take a drink for this.
What in the world?
Scales are not folds. They are keratinous structures that grow from placodes, which themselves are thickening of the embryonic epidermal tissue, but are not themselves folds in the skin. Now, some scales, particularly certain squamate scales, like snake scales, the placode actually does like fold in, like some part folds in and the other part folds over, which is how you get the overlapping keeled scales of snakes. But that is not just scales generally. You could say that's snake scales, but certainly not dinosaur scales, and it's not most lizard scales either. Montana is pretty, I will give it that. And yeah, it does have a pretty nice state. Look, I don't actually think I was in Montana. I was just picking some rural place that most even Americans don't ever go to. It was not actually intended to be a dig at Montana, or to deny that Montana has nice things about it. I have in fact been to Montana. I do like parts of Montana. It was a very nice drive to go through Montana on I-90. You know, very scenic. I stopped in a few places. It was nice. I'm not trying to crap on Montana. Goodness. All right, here we go. Also, it's the state that looks the most like a face.
feather, of course, is very complicated.
The border on the western end, it looks kind of like a face.
Okay.
And develops from a follicle, just like the hairs on your head.
No, not just like the hairs on your head. Both do, in fact, merge from follicle. We're just taking a drink, my goodness. Both hairs and feathers do, in fact, involve a follicle, right? Both of them involve the placode invaginating or creating a little sheath. Because, hey, fun fact, the basic meaning for the word vagina in Latin is, in fact, sheath, like for a sword. Only by analogy that it was applied to anatomy, you know. Anyway, just like cloaca, it means sewer in Latin. Doesn't, yeah.
Today in etymology fun facts.
Yeah. Also, anus and annus are different words. One means anus, and the other one means old lady. Yay for Latin.
You should definitely spell correctly.
Yeah, you should spell and also geminate your consonants when pronouncing Latin correctly, lest you call the sweet old lady a butthole.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Anyway, but the big difference is with feathers that the feather actually grows from a ring structure, which is why it's hollow, whereas the mammalian hair grows as a single solid strand of keratin that emerges from the middle of this follicle. They're not the same structures. All right. Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman is pretty cool. You know, I've been to Bozeman, but I didn't go to the Museum of the Rockies. I have heard good things about it, though. Although, what do you need a Museum of the Rockies for when you just drove over the Rockies? I'm kidding.
Now, he did have teeth, had claws on the wings.
Yeah, unlike any modern bird. And by the way, remember when we did that that paper club about Gabriella Haynes' travesty about Archaepteryx, where she said we should just stick with the Linnaean definition for birds?
Yep, and then she ignored pretty much all the criteria that Linnaeus came up with.
Do you remember that?
Love that.
One of them was not having teeth. So Archaeopteryx violates the traditional definition of bird that Carolus Linnaeus came up with. And I always love it when creationists are like, we should just stick with the traditional definitions. Like, all right, well then Archaeopteryx is definitely not a bird. It violates
Wait,
one of the
wait,
definitions.
because of reason.
No, we can't have that.
No.
And he had a long tail, and that's supposed to indicate that he came from a reptile.
I mean, they're both traits that are not known in any extant bird, and that are, in fact, known in dinosaurs. Plus, it's always interesting how creationists who are like, oh, Archaepteryx has nothing to do with dinosaurs, never actually give you a definition for what makes a dinosaur, and then proceed to show you why Archaepteryx doesn't meet that. Because, you know, there's a few things that make a dinosaur a dinosaur.
Creationists define your terminology challenge impossible.
Yeah, no, it's the thing. It's not just that it's impossible. It's that if they were to actually do it, they would either have to lie about the definition of dinosaur, which some of them are willing to do anyway, or it would become very obvious very easily to even their own audience that, yeah, birds are dinosaurs. And the thing is, I think that they should be okay with that because they're okay with whales being mammals. Right? We don't hear a whole lot of creationists going like, now, whales can't be mammals because mammals don't live under the water. Please ignore the seals.
Yep.
Well, maybe, but maybe not. What about the teeth? Well, it's true that modern birds do not have teeth, but in the fossil record, some birds had teeth and some did not.
It's almost like we have a transition between reptiles with teeth and reptiles with a beak and no teeth, and that this is right smack in the middle of it. I'm just taking a drink. Like, birds in the fossil record had teeth. Yeah, Duane, that's part of the problem, buddy. It's basically just him saying, hey, in the fossil record, some birds were transitional. Yeah, exactly, man. That's the point. Hey, in the fossil record, you know, some humans had more ape-like prognathism and, you know, more ape-like brow ridges and more ape-like teeth. Like, yeah, almost like humans evolved from other apes. Weird.
You know, that's not surprising, because that's true of fishes. Some fishes have teeth, some do not. Some amphibians have teeth, some do not.
Virtually no amphibians at this point have teeth. It's like amphisbaenians have teeth, and like, I think it's like one genus of frog or something. But technically it is true. Some amphibians have teeth, some don't. We'll take a drink. Also, if he says some of you have teeth, some don't, which is just one of the jokes that Kent Hovind tells, I'm taking a drink. One for, you know, confirmed prediction, but also for G. Kent, you couldn't even come up with your own jokes. You had to steal them from Duane Gish.
Mm-hmm.
Some reptiles have teeth, some do not.
Yeah, like birds or reptiles that don't have teeth.
Most mammals have teeth, some do not. And I suppose most of us have teeth, and some do not.
Yep.
Amazing.
Hence, good to know that you couldn't even come up with your own teeth joke. Goodness. That is so pathetic.
Wow.
I'm almost out of my first beer already.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of teeth, this lady is showing hers off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was that funny, but okay. Maybe in the 80s it was funny. Sort of like how like 80s horror movies are basically like very, very tame compared to anything being made now. Maybe the same thing was true for humor in the 80s. I don't know.
But you see, really, the presence or absence of teeth does not necessarily say something about our ultimate ancestry.
Nebulon says frogs do piercing damage. Do they? I mean, there is that species of frog that like will shove its own finger bones through its skin after shattering them to claw you with them if you attack it. That's really, really hardcore. Yeah.
But what about the claws on the wings? Doesn't that show that birds came from reptiles? Well, as a matter of...
So the thing is, it's not really the claws on their own that are the big thing for the transitional nature, because as Duane is, I'm sure, going to point out, he's going to talk about the Watson, right? Or the Watson, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. But the thing is, that's not the only birds that have claws. Ostriches have claws, emus have claws, basically all waterfowl have claws. Chickens have claws. If you're buying an actual chicken wing that doesn't have the hand cut off for processing, like the actual whole arm of a chicken, there's this little sharp part on the thumb. That's a claw, right? The thing about Archaeopteryx is that it has unfused wing fingers. There are no extant birds in which the three fingers, the thumb, the pointy finger, and the middle finger, which is what they have, aren't fused together, except for, you know, like one little distal digit on each one. Yet in Archaepteryx, they're perfectly separate, to the point that it could probably use its hand to grasp things, like hold onto tree trunks or grasp prey, which is not like any modern bird.
In fact, there are several birds living today that have claws on the wing. They include the Hoatzin.
Yep, take
The
your turn.
juvenile Hoatzin
Yep.
has 2 claws on its wings. Very handy for climbing back up in the nest when that little Hoatzin has to escape the nest when it's threatened.
They're also sometimes called stink birds because they smell terrible.
You know, that sounds like someone trying to say Watson, but like Stewie Griffin saying what? Or Will Wheaton.
Little feet. Yeah. Or cool whip.
Watson. Cool whip.
Titillac Rosie for 50,000 Vietnamese dong says, Baby Earth lunatics view birds as the exact opposite of the fake Princess Anastasia incident. The Romanovs left no descendants. Dinosaurs did. Yeah, they do seem to have left no descendants. The Bolsheviks were pretty thorough.
Yep.
They even killed a lot of people who were only like tangentially related to the Romanovs by marriage.
Gotta be thorough.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're like the widow of a 4th cousin to one of the Romanov like lesser scions. Down in a mine shaft you go. Oh,
Yep.
oh, gee, okay.
Crawl back up in the nest, you see. The Turako of Africa has claws on the wing. The ostrich has 3 very nice claws on the wing.
Pretty sure it's only 2, but I also mentioned the ostrich. So you know what? We'll take a drink for that being a confirmed prediction, mostly because I want to pour a new beer. English has too many vowels. We should talk about that sometime.
Yes, it does. Oh my god.
Like, if your language has more than 8 vowels, you need to calm the F down. That's just my...
So funny because people dunk
opinion.
on a lot of the Semitic languages for not using vowels in its like alphabet system, and I'm like, yo, English just went way too hard absorbing vowels from languages all over the place.
Honestly, like, Arabic has a perfectly fine vowel system, even if it's not always easily indicated in the writing system, unless it's for kids. But then there's English where it's like, yeah, we got like, 5.5 vowel letters. It's like, oh, okay. How many letters you got, or vowel sounds you got? Like, like a normal number,
Like 20.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, do you have a set way to write each of these vowel sounds? No, not really. I mean, there's some patterns, but whatever.
They're not consistent.
Yeah, they're not consistent. Oh,
Mm.
thanks. Although I will say, Hebrew has too many vowels too, especially for a Semitic language. Sorry.
I mean, I was going to talk about the ayin, but never mind.
Look, if you want me to have things that Arabic is doing that make it harder in terms of phonetics, I can do that. It's just not going to be in the vowel section. It's going to be in the consonant section. Arabic has plenty of ridiculous consonants that no language should really have. Whereas, at least modern Hebrew does not have that problem, but it does have way too many vowels. Lance Hall for $10 says, fail logic Toonie Gish, Gishes make the PayPal go vroom.
Vroom.
Yes. Actually, I only like 2 days ago took my this month's deposit from from Patreon. And like, I was like, oh yay, there's a few $100 more just right there. That's nice. Maybe I'll buy a pizza today. Haven't had pizza in a while. Yeah. What?
Pizza chop.
Yeah, that's how you say pizza in Klingon, right? It's pizza chop. It's good. It's a good word to know in Klingon.
But no one would claim for a moment that these birds are intermediate.
I mean, I might actually. They have some intermediate traits between them and more highly derived birds. I would actually argue that ostriches are pretty intermediate in a lot of ways.
I just think it's funny that he's like, no one's going to say these are intermediate. Okay, well, come visit us in a few hundred years and try to say that again.
Mm-hmm. An Intrigued Feline says, with pineapple, I'll tell you what, Intrigued Feline. If we can get to the actual number for another feeder video, I will get a Hawaiian pizza for whatever meal it is that I have after this.
Yummy.
Yeah. That's a promise I can make. And I will post a picture of it
Nom, 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 nom.
So there you go. The South Geek 2 Pelagic Boogaloo Official has gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to LP, Mark Rose, Charles Starbuck, Eric Davis, and Rosina Keller. I hope I'm pronouncing all of those right. If I'm not, please tag me and let me know. Here we go. 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4.
An intrigued
And
feline, you are correct. Cheese and fruit goes very well together.
It does, although I'm less enthused about the Canadian bacon aspect of the pineapple Hawaiian pizza.
That's why, like, I was about to say, Zerillon nailed it. You can get barbecue chicken pineapple pizza. That's exactly what I was going to suggest.
Yeah, I know, but I'm doing this as it's like a penalty. So I'm doing the Canadian bacon. Barbecue pineapple chicken is actually a pretty good combo.
Delicious.
Actually, I also like a barbecue chicken and onion pizza.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. A Star You for $4.99 says English has almost as many vowels as the bag that is AIG has dicks. But using the IPA to spell dicks phonetically so it doesn't get caught by the YouTube censors. I love it.
Amazing.
Oh, that's great. Everybody, learn the International Phonetic Alphabet. It's so handy once you know it. Because anytime anyone's like, oh, how do you pronounce that? And it's like, boom. International Phonetic Alphabet. Unambiguous. The hard part is the vowels, though, because vowel space is
always the vowels.
Yeah, it is. My advice is learn the ones that you use yourself, and then from there you can start to learn a few more.
Because they are alive and well today. Now, furthermore, some scientists from Texas Tech University just in recent years found fossils of a bird in Texas which they claim to be about 225 million years old.
Okay, so this is Prodavis.
Oh no, big numbers.
Yeah, so this is Prodavis, and it was found by, or at least it was described, if I remember correctly, by Lingam Soliar. It was a really weird name, by the way, if you know what the word lingam means, but, you know. He's one of the so-called bandits, along with Alan Fiducia. He's one of the Alan Fiducia culty members, who have basically just decided that, you know what, birds aren't dinosaurs, and we're going to say that they evolved from some kind of Triassic Archaeosauromorph, which they're calling a thecodont because they just love being decades behind on the research and terminology, just like creationists do. Here's the thing, right? The initial find of Prodavis was very fragmentary, and while it was arranged in the initial paper describing Prodavis in a way that made it look bird-like, when the fossils itself and just the pieces without that bird-like reconstruction were provided to numerous other paleontologists to create their own reconstruction, none of them were able to find anything that was even indicative of an avian affinity for Prodavis. In fact, currently its affinity is largely unknown because of the extreme fragmentary nature of the find. There's some ideas that it might be an Archaeosauromorph, but it could just as easily be a Lepidosaur or something else like that. This is just a thing that didn't happen, really. And instead, what actually happened was some guys who have a non-scientific standpoint on the evolution of birds for emotional reasons, that is, the Bandits, just decided that if this were a bird, that would be a problem for the dinosaur to evolution hypothesis, so they just declared that it was a bird. Literally no one else agrees with them. Right? No one. And it's not because, oh, that's too early for birds to have evolved. It's because there's just nothing bird-like about Prodavis. How many intermediate vowels are there? Dapper Dinosaur, Young Earth Creationist confirmed. So the thing is, there's actually like essentially an infinite number of intermediate vowels. Once you get deep into like the diacritical marks and whatnot that you can put on vowels in the International Phonetic Alphabet, you realize, oh, so just the cardinal vowels, of which there are like 20, are like all modifiable by like a set of numerous things that are like slightly more rounded, slightly less rounded, slightly more front, slightly less front, more lax, more tense. It's like, oh my god. Please make it stop. Please, vowels, just don't. Rosina Keller for $9.99 says, can I get Unicode-Trix AIG as a bag of dicks, all with the Unicode double letters?
Beautiful.
That is awesome. The Unicode trick. Oh man. I'll take a drink for that. That's amazing.
That is the winner right there.
Ugly German Truth says bandits, not bandicoots. Yeah, unfortunately it's bandits. I think bandicoots would have been a more fun term, but whatever. It's basically birds are not dinosaurs. They call themselves band, but people have
We're just gonna call them the trash bandicoots.
Ooh, I like that. Which also apparently the newest Crash Bandicoot game is finally getting ported to PC. Very
Sorry, I
nice.
had to-
No, it's perfectly appropriate. All right, here we go.
Now, Archaeopteryx supposedly lived on this earth 150 million years ago. This bird supposedly lived on the earth 225 million years ago. 75 million years older than Archaeopteryx. So it should be almost
Yeah, I don't know.
reptilian. Very much more reptilian than Archaeopteryx. But as
I mean,
What is your point? How do you even define what a reptile is? You haven't told us.
yeah, no, he's not going to. And also, hey, Prodavis just isn't a bird. It's just not. There's literally nothing that would indicate that it's a bird.
a matter of fact, it turned out to be even more bird-like than Archaeopteryx.
No, it didn't. There's no evidence of feathers. There's no evidence of, like, say, fused finger bones or toe bones. Or, well, okay, not phalanges in the toes, but, like, metatarsals. There's no indication of a keeled sternum, a beak. It's literally nothing bird-like about it. It was just an animal from the Triassic that the bandits were like, oh, hey, if we arrange the bones this way, like people normally arrange bird skeletons in a, like, anatomical diagram, then it looks like a bird. It's like, yeah, that's true. If you intentionally arrange the bones in a way that people normally arrange bird bones, you kind of get the vague impression that it's bird-like. Great. It's just another example like Oculodentavis. I don't know if you guys remember that. But a few years ago, this whole paper came out like, we found the smallest ever bird head in amber from like the Jurassic period. We're calling it Oculodentavis. Smallest dinosaur ever known, smallest bird ever known. And then myself and a whole bunch of other people looked at the paper and we were like, hey, what makes this not just a lizard?
Yeah.
And then a few months later, the initial authors were like, oh yeah, so this is probably just a lizard, except in this case, unlike the people who did the Oculodentavis paper who were just mistaken and corrected themselves, this was done by the bandits, who never admit defeat, and who never correct themselves, except in the most crazy circumstances, and then only by digging themselves deeper. When it became clear that, oh yeah, no, Coelurosaurs, generally speaking, just do have feathers, and they were like, okay, well that's just all birds, and they're not dinosaurs. I'm like, yeah, T-Rex, totally not a dinosaur, definitely a bird. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Alan.
Sure.
The evidence you see shows that birds have always been birds.
I mean, except for all those intermediate indicator features that you yourself pointed out there, Duane.
Flying reptiles have always been flying reptiles. Bats have always been bats, and flying insects have always been insects.
Oh, so we're going to ignore all the things like the hollow filament style protofeathers that we get in not just theropods, but even ornithischians like Coelindrodromeus, where what am I trying to say? Protoceratops? Was it Protoceratops? Vishanti, you were there. We saw the thing about the paper about the dinosaur butthole, right?
Probably.
What was the genus on that one?
I cannot believe you possibly expect me to remember that.
You're smart. You know words. The Psittacosaurus. It was Psittacosaurus, the parrot lizard. That's what it is.
Psittacosaurus. Oh yeah, that's the one with the little thing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And there was a paper recently about its butthole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah. Now I remember that.
It had a Y-shaped butthole. In case you're wondering.
It didn't have the reptile slit type.
Yeah, no. Psittacosaurus we know had hollow filaments. Then we get to things like Eutyrannus, right, which is an actual tyrannosauroid. Well, tyrannosauroid. Tyrannosauria as like a group has a lot of chaos going on in exactly what name should be applied to what clades. But anyway, Eutyrannus is at least a tyrannosauroid, and it was known to be covered in sort of like downy feathers. And then we have things like Velociraptor and other dromaeosaurs like Microraptor that we know had bird-like feathers, but also, does Duane Gish want to say Velociraptor is a bird? I actually happen to know he does not, because he published a book called Dinosaurs by Design, in which he portrayed velociraptors as definitively being dinosaurs with scaly skin.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Meldborn, who's been a member for 11 months, says, professional creationists admitting that previous conclusions of creationism were wrong challenge. Almost impossible. Yeah, they do it every once in a while. Like, they've mostly done it with the dust on the moon argument, where they were like, oh, there's not enough dust on the moon. Except, yeah, there's plenty. Sometimes they just drop arguments, like Duane Gish and his buddy Henry Morris were big on the accumulation of mineral salts in the oceans, demonstrating a young Earth. They've dropped that since, especially since in their magnum opus scientific creationism. If you actually look at the table for the accumulation times of various minerals in the oceans, you'll find that aluminum, or aluminium, if you pronounce it wrong, has an accumulation time of like 100 years. It's like, okay, so if say like, sodium has a roughly 6,000 year, and it's like, well, that means the Earth can't be more than 6,000 years old. What do we do with aluminum? Did the world start in like the 1920s? Was Eve a flapper? Is that what happened?
Last Thursdayism confirmed.
Seriously. I just like the idea that Eve is like a 1920s flapper. And, she's wearing like the sheer dress and the funny little hat and whatnot. And she's just like, dancing the Charleston or something right there in the Garden of Eden. Okay.
Incredible.
We'll get a little bit more in, then we're going to take a break.
Here where we should have the best evidence for evolution, you see, it is not there. We have what the creationists would expect.
Yeah, I'm just wondering which creationists predicted having fossils of birds with teeth, unfused wing fingers, long bony tails, unfused metatarsals. I'm just wondering, were there any of them? Because as far as I know, there weren't. However, it was noticed before Archaepteryx was discovered by paleontologists who were sympathetic to Darwin that, in fact, the foot bone, or the just general leg anatomy of chickens, was suspiciously similar to known theropod foot anatomy, like of Megalosaurus. And then there were predictions that, well, maybe there might be found some intermediates between theropods and birds. Weird how that happened. Now, I know that creationists like to sometimes talk about the so-called golden standard in science, which is, of course, demonstrated to be correct, testable predictions, which evolution has a whole bunch of. And as far as I can tell, the only creationism prediction that has ever turned out to be right is that the universe isn't eternal and instead seems to have had a start point. Which, hey, that's not nothing. I'll give them that. I'm perfectly happy to say, yeah, that was a prediction of creationists, and it was a contra-prediction of basically everyone else. But sorry, that's not paleontology, so I don't think it's relevant to this particular discussion. Got a couple super chats in just now. Rosina Keller says, for $9.99 US, I recently had surgery to install a plate on my fractured wrist. Ooh, I hope that went well. I came out of anesthesia talking about Kent Hovind and the fact that you can't prove the universe wasn't created last Thursday. You might be spending, dare I say it, too much time on the channel.
Incredible.
That's great. Oh, man.
I love that.
That's really good. Savage Eric Hovind's tie collection, Cobra, for $2 says, don't you mean scrotum humanum? Yes, of course. The real name of Megalosaurus, because technically Megalosaurus is a junior synonym to scrotum humanum. Although technically that was listed as a label for the particular specimen and not as a binomial, so the priority of scrotum humanum is a little bit up for debate. But you know what? We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get, a couple more beers out of the refrigerator. And we're going to have you guys listen to the musical stylings of one Bent Hovind for a few minutes while we refresh our drinks and get ready for the final 5 minutes and 40 seconds of this video. We can do it. We got this. All right. See you guys on the other side of the break. And we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Vishanti, with your lovely feeders. Yes, there you go. They're very nice. All right, so now that we are back, I want to really quickly go over a few commercial things, because, you know, I have to do things like not be homeless and be able to afford that Hawaiian pizza that we're $126 away from. It's very expensive Hawaiian pizza. So, as you guys might know, YouTube is an extremely volatile platform when it comes to things like ads and whatnot. And it's not just me, actually. A number of other people who do YouTube have noticed that August has been kind of rough, and so was July. And as a result, I am ever more dependent on things like people joining the Patreon, joining the channel membership program, super chatting, super thanks, gifting memberships, stuff like that. So if you are interested in helping to support the channel so I can continue to do the consistent 3 videos a week, which, I mean, I've been doing that basically without fail now for like 2 years or something? I'm on a pretty good streak is what I'm saying. If you would like that to be something that can continue indefinitely into the future, that is the best way to do it, is to go support me on Patreon or in the channel memberships. Patreon, you can get early access to all my videos at various higher tiers. You'll get into the credits, might say your name. There's some Blender stuff. If you do 3D stuff, I toss up some of my like not on the channel Blender projects just up there. So yeah, you know, it's a great way to support. You can get a 12% discount if you go annually. So if you want to be at like the $5 tier and you want to go annually instead of, you know, paying $60, you pay like slightly less than $50 and get the whole year for that amount. And also the channel memberships give you almost the exact same thing. There's early access, there's names and credits, stuff like that. Also, if, you know, an annual or a monthly thing, just not something you want to do, but you still want to support the channel, there is a merch store. There is an Amazon wish list. I should have it in here, a wish list for Vishanti in here too. Yes, I do. Vishanti also has a wish list, which is linked. There's also, just if you can't afford any monetary support, or you just don't want to support monetarily, you don't think that that's worth it for you, that's great. Like the video, share these videos, comment on my videos, everything like that. It really helps out a lot. Now, Titillac Rosie for 20,000 dong says, could you please give a definition of Titillac? Yes, Titillac is the name of a made-up genus that Andrew Snelling pretends is a thing that exists. That is what the definition of Titillac is. Yep. I guess it could also be what you call like someone who just really doesn't have a chest. All right.
Well, I guess I'm a Titillac.
No comment there. I'm just going to hit play on Duane Gish, because I can't imagine saying anything to follow that one up that won't get me in trouble.
We find this to be true throughout the fossil record. Each major type appears fully formed right at the start.
Man, that's weird, because I feel like that isn't the case, and like maybe we have evidence of that I've compiled into some kind of a video file or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's usually accompanied with like some kind of yodeling or something. Is that a thing that you remember? I'm trying to find it in my list of things. Where did it go? Oh no, I can't seem to find it in my list of but yeah, anyway, I guess I can't find it right now, so I'm not going to try any harder. Yeah, transitional fossils are like all over the place. We have transitional whales, transitional birds, transitional hominids, transitional mammals, transitional deer, pinnipeds, horses. It's just all over the place. Sydney Raptor for $2 dues says, don't get excited. $1 dues aren't much, just better. Thank you very much. But hey, that makes us only 124 away from forcing me to eat a Hawaiian pizza.
Tremendous, powerful, positive evidence for creation, but contradictory to evolution. Now, just to demonstrate.
Jeez. Who turned up the microphone? I'm taking a drink because of how much that made my brain hurt just now.
Woo!
That was... Yeah, I did not just adjust the volume. I mean, I did just now adjust the audio down, but like
Like a
wow.
one of those bass boosted memes.
Seriously.
Demonstrate that what we have said is not the exception, but the general rule. Let me quote from Dr. E.J.H. Corner, a
Yay, quote mines.
botanist at Cambridge University. This man is an evolutionist. He said, much evidence can be adduced in...
All right, we have to start typing this into a search bar, right? Because we have to find out if this is going to be a Trojan source. Okay. Much evidence can be adduced in favor of the theory of evolution from biology, biogeography, oh, no comma. Apparently this person is not a fan of the Oxford comma, and paleontology. See, I like the Oxford comma because it's the difference between I had lunch with a couple strippers, Stalin and George Bush, and I had lunch with a couple strippers, Stalin and George Bush. Those are different sentences.
Uh-huh. Yep.
All right. Here we go. We'll keep listening.
In favor of the theory of evolution from biology, biogeography, and paleontology. But I still think that to the unprejudiced, the fossil record of plants is in favor of spatial creation.
Okay, let's finish that
find
quote. Not quite yet, but I'm going to finish the quote. But I still think that to the unprejudiced... Did I get that right? Yes, I did. Comma. The fossil record of plants is in favor of special creation. Let's see who said this. Yeah, I probably spelled it. Oh, let's see.
Addicted to Mosh says, let's eat Grandpa, and let's eat Grandpa.
That's not technically the Oxford comma, but it is a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so this is a quote that's found of Pandas and People. So they use it there at least. Let's see. It was listed in the Talk Origins Quote Mine archive. Here we go. Yep.
Oh,
it
goody.
is quote number 60 from the Talk Origins Quote Mine archive. This is a heavily edited version of something that Corner wrote in a chapter he contributed to Contemporary Botanical Thought, McLeod, A.M. and Colby, L.S., edition 1961, Chicago, Quadrangle Books, page 97. In order to appreciate and understand Corner, we need two things. One, an understanding of who Corner was, he died in 1996, and that he was a full unedited, and what the full unedited context of the chopped bit used by Creationists. First of all, Corner was a botanist who specialized in tropical plants. This, by the way, is just from Talk Origins. His entire career was dedicated to the study of tropical plants and ecology. Evolutionary theory was to him as obvious as and as natural as breathing. Consider his remark as to the origin of seaweed. Quote, living seaweeds are the modern ancestors of the old drama. 2 or 3,000 million years ago, crowded plankton cells were pushed against bedrock and forced to change or die. They changed and became seaweed. Corner, E.J.H. 1964, The Life of Plants. Corner also seemed to be a man who liked to have a good time. Okay. He, Ahmad Abd-Munir, 1936, to apparently still living at the time this Talk Origins thing was done, rumors the rollicking return from Britain en route to Borneo of the famous E.J.H. Corner, the former director of the gardens and a global expert on figs, fungi, seeds, and just about everything else. He is infamous for the monkeys that he trained to climb trees and throw down herbarium material. Okay. This guy trained monkeys.
All right.
That's pretty great.
Wow.
A great party was...
Also, DM, I'll have to do some research. Wing says in the chat, see design proponentsists.
Yes, that is in fact the same book. A great party was had. Munir describes him as charismatic, jolly, friendly, and knowledgeable. Ahmad Abid Munir, on the occasion of his retirement from the Australian National Botanic Gardens, W.R. Bill Barker, Plant Biodiversity Center, Adelaide. That's where that quote came from. Nor was he someone to be easily intimidated, as he had survived the Japanese occupation of the Malay Peninsula during World War II. Holy crap, dude.
Whoa! Wow.
That is intense. In addition to his lifelong devotion to tropical ecology, Corner is best known for his durian theory. Oh, goodness.
Oh.
A durian theory. If you guys don't know about durian, I'm just going to say, don't sniff too heavily when you're around durians.
Tastes great. Smells awful.
In addition to his lifelong devotion to tropical ecology, Corner was also best known... Yeah, okay. Which placed tropical plants in the center of importance to plant evolution. It is this last item that allows an honest interpretation of the full and proper quote from contemporary botanical thought. So here we go. Here's the full quote. The theory of evolution is not merely the theory of the origin of species, but the only explanation of the fact that organisms can be classified into this hierarchy of natural affinity. Much evidence can be adduced in favor of the theory of evolution from biology, biogeography, and paleontology, but I still think that to the unprejudiced, the fossil record of plants is in favor of special creation. If, however, another explanation could be found for this hierarchy of classification, it would be the knell of the theory of evolution. Can you imagine how an orchid, a duckweed, and a palm could have come from the same ancestry, and have we any evidence for this assumption? The evolutionist must be prepared with an answer, but I think that most would break down before an inquisition. Textbooks hoodwink. A series of more and more complicated plants is introduced, the alga, the fungus, the bryophyte, and so on, and examples are added eclectically in support of one or another theory, and that is held to be a presentation of evolution. If the world of plants considered only of these few textbooks, types of standard botany, the idea of evolution might never have dawned, and the backgrounds of these textbooks are the temperate countries, which are at best a poor place to study the world of vegetation. The point, of course, is that there are thousands and thousands of living plants, predominantly tropical, which have never entered the general botany. Yet they are the bricks in which the taxonomist has built his temple of evolution, and where else have we to worship? So, unsurprisingly, this entire quote mine was from E.J.H. Corner supporting evidence for evolution in plants, and just pointing out that it did not primarily come from the fossil record of temperate plants, but instead was found in both the living and fossil tropical plants.
Trojan source!
Yeah, we're taking a drink for Trojan source on that one.
I'm also calling cherry picking as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely that. Now, for $9.99, Rosina Keller says, was going to say AIG is a bag of small antelope in the genus Madoqua. But then I remembered how much the muntjac deer scares me, so I'm hiding under my sheets. We're taking another drink for that one. In case you guys don't know, that's the Dick, and they are adorable. What? What is so funny? That's what they're called. They're the Dick.
No.
It's not my fault that they have a strangely suggestive name.
Listen, it set me off on like a whole mental tangent of like Snoop Dogg narrating National Geographic videos.
Oh,
which if
I
you
love
haven't
that.
watched,
Yeah.
It's hysterical.
Yeah.
End of quote. See what the man said? If you're
I do see what the man said. I see what you didn't want us to know about him saying it. Weird.
unprejudiced, you have an open mind, in his field, as a botanist, he says the fossil record supports creation.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't!
When it's restricted to temperate plants, which is where most botanists do their work. Oh man, if only that whole big tropical thing didn't show up, what a fucking liar you are, and I just dropped the one F-bomb. Sorry, everybody. Look.
I do all this work to try to not curse and drop the F-bomb, and then Dabber just blasts it right out there.
It's the second time in a row I've actually been the one to drop the F-bomb in one of my streams. Look, here's the thing, right? I am a little bit hypersensitive right now to obvious dishonesty, especially from creationists. Because holy crap, has there been a lot of it lately. Like, it's been a banner year for creationists just taking that mask right off and being like, no, I'm just a liar. I was like, oh.
Honestly.
Okay.
This has been the year that creationists just hold every L. They cannot admit when they're wrong. When someone calls them out, they just go, nuh-uh, because reasons. And then they never actually watch the things they're responding to.
Yeah, that's been happening a lot.
Sal Cordova, 124 days bitch made.
Mm-hmm. And if you noticed my my recent community post, Dr. Robert Carter pulled the same thing with Erica, where he made a quote-unquote response video to her 2-hour Jeffrey Tompkins takedown, in which he said that he wasn't going to go into anything she got wrong. And then later on in the comments was like, well, I'm not aware of any evolutionists who have recreated Dr. Tompkins' methods. It's like, that was like the entire
You literally
basis.
didn't watch the video.
Yeah, there's no way you could say that and then not have watched that video. It's the entire
You
point
literally
of the video.
just told on yourself.
Yeah.
A whole section of Erica's video was, hey, I went to Jeffrey Tompkins' paper, copied his methods exactly, and then went and compared identical genomes from 2 human populations and got an 80% similarity.
Not just that, but one human genome to itself, the 100% perfectly identical genome, which using normal parameters returned 100% identity, and using Tompkins' bullshit parameters was like, it's like 85%. It's like, oh, okay, sure.
That right there, I'm just like, you guys are incapable of lying. And this is one of those things where I'm going to send up, like, the bat signal for Dan McClellan, because it's literally putting dogma over data.
Mm-hmm. But, hey, we're not here so much to talk about Rob Carter or Sal Cordova, so here we go.
Not evolution. Now, Dr. Colin Patterson is the famous evolutionist or well-known paleontologist at the British Museum of Natural History. Dr. Patterson, certainly not a creationist.
British Museum of Natural History. I just love that recently the British Museum had things stolen and they had the audacity to complain about it.
Oh, yeah. How dare you steal something from the British Museum? How did you get it? Now, to be fair, their Natural History Museum does have a lot of stuff that is actually from, Britain. But, the rest of it's like, hey, how'd you get that Rosetta Stone? Did you...
Stairs in Eric Killmonger.
Yeah.
But this man has been very frank about many things. He published a book called Evolution a number of years ago. One of our creation scientists purchased that book and read it, enjoyed it. And Dr. Patterson invited comments from the readers. So my friend, this creation scientist, wrote to Dr. Patterson.
I love what DM, I'll have to do some research, Wing, just said in the chat. Dogma, is that another Soon-type android we haven't met yet?
Oh, man. Well, we got yet another Soon-type android in Picard Season 3 that's just an excuse to resurrect both data and lore somehow. And it's just like, all right, you know what? I don't care. I'm fine with it, because you know what? It lets us complete the bridge crew so that in the finale, when they actually get on the restored Enterprise D, that they're all just there as old people. It's fine. It's fine. Tiddlelag Rosie for 20,000 Vietnamese dong says, Sal Goodman, a real name, Slippin' Cordova. Real name, Slippin' Cordova. Nice. Sal Goodman. Yeah, you know what? I'm not a big fan of giving people cutesy nicknames, but I do like the idea that Sal Goodman is a nickname for Sal Cordova. Yeah, because unfortunately they've been sharing some character traits of late. A Star U for $4.99 says the British History Museum steals artifacts almost as much as the average pro young Earth creationist steals quote fragments. Ooh, yeah. And we are 108 from another feeder video, or from forcing me to eat a Hawaiian pizza. Okay. Let's see. Now I'm pretty sure this is going to be the letter that this guy wrote to this person, who then says that, if I knew of any such unambiguous transitional fossils, I would have included them. I know of none such. We'll get there. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and if it is, we'll take a drink. Well, I mean, look, this is from like the 80s. We're getting all the Creationist classics.
Known paleontologist at the British Museum of Natural History. He said, Dr. Patterson, I enjoyed your book very much. But it would have been helpful if in that book you had presented some of the transitional forms. At least perhaps you could have had an artist illustrate what you think these things look like. In a letter dated April 10th, 1979, Dr. Patterson wrote to this creation scientist, and he made the following statement.
Yeah,
Quote,
that's the
I
one.
fully agree with your comments on the lack of direct illustration of evolutionary transitions in my book. If I knew of any, fossil or living, I would certainly have included them. You suggest an artist should be asked to visualize this transformation, but where would he get the information from? I could not honestly provide it. And if I were to leave it to artistic license, would that not mislead the reader? End of quote. What does this famous paleontologist say? Sitting among one of the great...
All right, so first of all, Astari for $4.99, I can talk, says Godzilla loves Hawaiian pizza. We'll take a drink at that. I mean, maybe Godzilla does. I don't know.
Godzilla likes nukes too.
Yeah, he does.
Yum, yum.
Yeah, he definitely likes nukes. Look, I'm not going to tell anyone that they are not allowed to have, just a whole love affair with Hawaiian pizza. The fact that it's not my thing doesn't mean that it doesn't have merit or that people are just wrong for liking it, right? Not everything is for me. That's okay. Not everything has to be. However, let's read this Talk Origins, Patterson Misquoted, A Tale of Two Cities. Let's take a look at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit, and then we're going to put it in, we're going to shift you guys over so that you can see what I'm reading. Because we're just going to read it. Because this is the best takedown of this whole thing that I know of. So, just a second. Here it is. The Talk Origins Archive. Because, quite frankly, I mean, this was done in the 80s, and Talk Origins was like the late 90s for the most part. So this is perfectly appropriate. Because basically everything Duane Gish says has been covered in Talk Origins. In 1993, oh, by the way, this is Lionel Funison, whom I've cited before. In 1993, I attended a public lecture on the Queensland University of Technology Australia campus by Carl Weiland, the director of the Creation Science Foundation here in Brisbane. That was my first encounter with Carl Weiland and the CSF. By the way, no, I'm not going to try to do an Australian accent for this. And it wasn't to be my last. In his lecture, Weiland made a string of absurd claims to which I objected vocally, much to his chagrin. On each point, Weiland refused to answer my objections and stated that questions would be allowed at the conclusion of the lecture, where I was allowed to ask one whole question. Unsurprising. Anyway, that's another story. Other story, goodness, sorry about that, is that pelagic tunicate, there's more to that, let's see, sauropods sound like geckos, oh yeah, B2022 has gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Robert Carpenter, Chris McDaniel, Steve Weber, Judia, and Grey Wolf Coder. Thank you very much. That is very much appreciated. So let's take some drinks for that. Where's my drink counter? There it is. You guys can see the drink counter. That's fun. Here we go. 1. 2.
Get those pelagic tunicates in.
Cecil tunicates. 3.
Pelagic tunicates.
Cecil. 4.
Pelagic.
Cecil.
Ink Boy for €2. Says
5.
bananas are radioactive, so Godzilla hearts bananas.
True, and we'll take a drink for it. All right. Thank you very much. That is extremely generous of you guys. And I am not entirely looking forward to the likely pizza that I'm going to end up eating.
Just send it to me. I'll eat it.
No, you can order your own Hawaiian pizza.
And if you don't want to eat it or order it, you just send it to me.
No, I already made a promise. I stick with my promises. During the lecture, a quotation of Dr. Colin Patterson was used to justify the standard creationist argument that there are no transitional forms. Numerous other creationists I have encountered have used the quote, and an extended version, which fills in the text between the ellipses, appears in the CSF Revised Quote Book, published 1990. I love that this is a thing that used to exist, right? Creationists would write their own books that are nothing but quote mines that you can also use, because we already mined them. We went down into the shafts of academia, and we hauled out a bunch of quote mines on our mine cart. Here they are. We already smelted them down for you. Gee, thanks. I fully agree with your comments on the lack of direct illustration of evolutionary transitions in my book. If I knew of any, fossil or living, I would have certainly have included them. I will lay it on the line, there is not one such fossil for which one might make a watertight argument. Dr. Colin Patterson, Senior Paleontologist of the British Museum of Natural History. I decided to get to the bottom of the matter. The quote is from a personal letter dated the 10th of April, 1979, from Dr. Patterson to creationist Luther D. Sutherland, and is referring to Dr. Patterson's book Evolution, 1978, Routledge and Keegan, Paul Limited. My first step was to read the book. I believe it is now out of print, but most university libraries should have a copy. That might not be the case at this point. Anyone who has actually read the book can hardly say that Patterson believed in the absence of transitional fossils. For example, pages 131 through 133, quote, in several animals and plant groups, enough fossils are known to bridge the wide gaps between existing types. In mammals, for example, the gaps between horses, asses, and zebras, genus Equus, and their closest living relatives, the rhinoceros and tapirs, is filled by an extensive series of fossils extending back 60 million years to the small Archaepteryx, which can only be distinguished from the rhinoceros tapir group by one or two horse-like details of the skull, which is a point I've made many times. The earliest rhinos and the earliest horses, virtually indistinguishable. There are many other examples of fossil missing links, such as Archaepteryx, the Jurassic bird, which links birds with dinosaurs, figure 45, and Ichthyostega, the late Devonian amphibian, which links land vertebrates, and the extinct choanate, having internal nostrils, fishes. End quote. Patterson goes on to acknowledge that there are gaps in the fossil record, but points out that this is possibly due to the limitations of what fossils can tell us. He finishes the paragraph with, fossils may tell us many things, but one of the things they can never disclose is whether they were the ancestors of anything else. It is actually this statement which is the key to interpreting Sunderland's quote correctly. It is not possible to say for certain whether a fossil in the direct ancestral line of a species group. It is not possible to say for certain whether a fossil is in the direct ancestral line of a species group. There we go. I can English. Archaeopteryx, for example, is not necessarily directly ancestral to birds. It may have been a species on a side branch. However, that in no way disqualifies it as a transitional form or as evidence for evolution. Evolution predicts that such fossils will exist, and if there was no link between reptiles and birds, an Archaeopteryx would not exist, whether it was directly ancestral or not. What Patterson is saying to Sutherland is that of the transitional forms that are known, he could not make a watertight argument for any being directly ancestral to living groups. Of course, my opinion on the quotation was never going to impress a creationist. I don't think anything is enough to convince a creationist. It depends. I mean, both you and I, Vishanti, are former creationists. We got convinced.
Yeah, true.
So it is a depending thing, right? It's easy to get pessimistic on the chances of, getting a creationist to realize how stupid creationism is. But it definitely does happen. It happened to us. I have a whole series on my show about leaving young Earth creationism. So it does. So I decided to see if I could get the full text of the letter and see if it could clarify the context. Since the quote appears in the revised quote book and the editor claims in the introduction that the text of each quote is held in full, I faxed the CSF and asked if they would supply me with the text of the letter. I received the following fax back from Carl Weiland, dated 18 June 1993, who apparently remembered our exchange at QUT. Fax to Lionel T. from Carl Weiland regarding your requests. That's bland and generic, but okay. Our past exchanges would have served to show you, if your intention was bona fide, that not only the bona fides, but the validity of many of the things you were challenging. Instead of coming back for genuine discussion in the interest of discovering truth, you have sidestepped the issues and are moving into a totally unrelated area. Dude, what are you talking about? Just provide the text. This is a simple.
Get on with it.
This is a simple academic thing. Like, hey, do you have a source for this thing that you said? And then the right thing to say is, yes, here's the source.
Right.
I can only assume that your intention is not and is unlikely to become bona fide and will therefore not permit our staff to give you the references, etc. you seek, as you are clearly simply looking for the negative and cannot be relied upon to give an objective assessment. Not meant as any personal disrespect. Look, every time anyone says, "Oh, I don't," not to be disrespectful or with all due respect, they're about to say something extremely. Yeah, they're about to say something extremely disrespectful. It doesn't make it better if you're like, "I don't mean to offend you." It's like, I don't mean to offend you, but you're a giant asshole. Thanks.
No offense, but
Thanks.
Full offense.
But from our encounter at uni, you are clearly so emotionally involved and hostile to our platform that it would serve no useful purpose for us to do your work for you. The quotes in the RQB are extensively referenced, and you have access to public libraries, etc. Yeah, for personal correspondence. What? Try not to drop the next X-bomb. I'm just going to take a drink. Yeah, why don't you check your university library for some letter some guy wrote to another guy 10 years ago. Or at this point, I guess it would be like 20 years ago. Yeah, okay. Let me just go do that. Goodness. Like, I remember I had to go check on correspondence between people from like the mid-19th century when I was doing one of my classes in college. And I did actually end up going to the library, but it wasn't as simple as like, oh, I just showed up at a university library. I had to go to the Boston Public Library departments of rare books and manuscripts, go through security, check my backpack, and then go very nicely request that a particular box be brought out to me. And then that was possible. And it was only because this person's correspondence was considered of historical value. If he hadn't been considered of historical value, it wouldn't be there. Savage Eric Hoven's tie collection, Cobra, for $2 just sends a clown emoji. Yeah, no, this Lionel T is definitely... Or no, sorry, Carl Weiland, not Lionel, is an absolute clown. This is total clown behavior. You are even free to write the authors yourself, since most would still be alive. Yeah, is this one? Turns out, yes, it is. He is, but still. Roasting a Keller for $4.99 says, no offense, but I like eating from cold cans of Vienna sausages while sitting in the shower. That's okay. That's you know what? I'm not going to tell you not to do that. You do you. Ooh, hey, you know how many how far away we are from the next feeder video? I'll give you a hint. It's a nice number of dollars.
0.
No. It's a nice number of dollars. See if chat can get the nice number.
69.
C. The very reason that RQB is the revised quote book is... I just still can't get over the fact that there's like, hey, we're just going to publish a book that's just nothing but quote mines. What if we just did that? Okay, you said the original quote book, published 1984, had been withdrawn due to an embarrassing number of errors.
Yeah.
Some quotes even seem to have been fabricated.
Incredible.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, wow. Woo!
The introduction of the RQB coyly refers to that fiasco as follows. With the CSF, as usual, sorely underfunded. Of course, yes, you made up quotes for your book because you didn't have enough money.
Because you didn't have enough money.
And overworked at the time.
Poor. I guess we have no option but to lie.
They're basically just going with the literal interpretation of quote mines. Like, look, we weren't being paid enough by the mining company, and we were overworked down in the mine shaft to get all those quote mines out. Like, okay.
Yeah.
The original quote book had been hastily put together from quotes sent in by a number of people. Oh, we just took submissions. Hey, does anyone have any quotes that disprove evolution? We're not going to check or anything. We'll just put them in a book. Oh, I can't. I have to take another drink.
Oh, wow. Wow. Astounding.
Some of these turned out to have been simply written down on a card after listening to a creationist speaker at a lecture. Someone handed in their note cards. And they were like, let's put it in a book. Oh my.
Oh, wow.
Oh. I need to catch my breath after that one. Pelagic tuna cat sauropods sound like geckos. B2022 says for £5. This dude has as much integrity as Kent has genuine academic credentials. Yeah, that's Inkboy for $5 says, wow. With all due respect, slim, slimy soil digesters soiling several sagging sacks is AIG. We'll take a drink. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna try and compose myself and get back on topic. This is actually the best part of this entire stream, is just the ridiculousness of where this quote ultimately comes from. Looking through the Archaepteryx does not inspire any confidence that it is any better than the original quote book. Of course not. Many of the quotations are clearly out of context. You don't say.
No way.
Impossible. I refuse to believe it. Also, out of the 130 quotes, at least 10% are secondary references.
Amazing.
Yeah. Secondary quotes are a convenient way to misrepresent. Sure, the quote might accurately reproduce the secondary text, but does the secondary text accurately reflect the original text? So in case anyone is wondering, right? This is like, oh, well, Jim said that Sarah said that evolution is fake and dumb. And, Sarah's an evolutionary biologist. Like, oh, okay, great, but did Sarah actually say that? Or is Jim just lying? Who knows? James Duncan, is Dapper working on dropping his second F-bomb? I'm trying not to. It's really hard. Honestly. Like, I'm sitting here like, okay, don't say it. Don't say it. But then there's so much good reason to. Wow, Roasting a Color for 99.99 US dollars says, I can't do a nice number in the mobile app, so here's a red number. AIG is a vessel of fetid cheese. Thank you so much. That is extremely generous.
Aw,
We'll take a drink.
thank you.
I'm also going to pour a new beer, and I definitely now have to buy myself a Hawaiian pizza.
Yummy.
Yeah, that is. Thank you very much. And also, that means that I'm going to put up a new poll. Now, I'm actually going to put up a poll in here to see what the poll should include. So, here's how this is going to work. My initial thought is, since I just did Cyber Dapper, which won the poll, and I would like to cycle through the other special avatars, should I not include Cyber Dapper? Instead, just include like the Mecha Dapper and Feather Dapper. So I'm going to put a poll in. Okay. Should the next poll include Cyber Dapper or not? Okay. And unfortunately, I'm not putting in a turtle answer on this one because I actually do want to know what you guys think. And joke turtle answers aren't going to help. So we're going to put it yes, no. So remember, if yes, then it means it will have Feather Dapper, Cyber Dapper, and the Mecha Dapper. If it's no, it will just be Feathers or Mecha Dapper. So I will create that poll based on your feedback here. Pelagic Tuna Cat Sauropod Sound Like Geckos B2022 for £5 says, breaking news, all staff at AIG change their legal name so that all letters are addressed to W. Anchor. Taking a drink, that's good. Savage quotes from that random note cards Cobra. Says,
Yes.
remember how young Earth creationists are the only ones who can be honest with the data? Oh man, Bodie Hodge said that, and holy crap, did I go off on him?
Oof.
Yeah, if you guys don't have early access to my videos, you're missing some pretty spicy stuff as of late. Rosina Keller says no turtle dapper. No, I explained why, because I want to actually know what people's opinions are. I don't know, grammar. And if I put turtle in, that'll just be a bunch of people who don't actually give their real opinion and just put in turtle for meme effect. And I don't want that in this case, because I actually care about what the answer is. Okay, so back to the actual text here. Then there are the uncheckable quotations. Sources like personal letters, lectures, TV interviews, etc., which cannot be referenced in a library. Interestingly, Dr. Colin Patterson is quoted 5 times. Every single one is from a source uncheckable in a library. Which
amazing.
By the way, what did Carl Weiland say? Let's see. You have access to public libraries. Oh man, if only it weren't a book full of things that can't be checked in libraries. Okay. Cross-platform adventures who did a member for 7 months and is at the amniote level says, I emailed Georgia right to life about their claim Margaret Sanger supported black genocide. They said it was a private letter in Sanger's estate. This is same. I think it means same energy. So I will say this. From my understanding, based on actual sources, Margaret Sanger was in fact an enthusiastic member of the American eugenics movement.
You.
Now, I'm also going to point out that so was basically everyone who was well-educated and white and interested in things like human reproduction or biology at the time. Eugenics was actually wildly popular in the United States at the time. And the thing is that to then complain about, say, Planned Parenthood, which she founded, on the grounds that she was a eugenicist or that she may have favored black genocide, which I don't have such good evidence for, is just a genetic fallacy, right? It's like, oh, you shouldn't drive on the Autobahn if you're in Germany. You know why? Because the Nazis built it. Like, okay, man, it's the road. I'm going to drive on it. Whatever. It's how you get from here to there. I'm just going to drive on it. I don't care, right? It doesn't matter. Hello, my name is Fearmonger for 69 secs. Ooh, that is the perfect super chat right there. 69 secs.
Nice.
It says, apparently Rock Bottom has a basement. Also, haha. Also funny, haha, segs number. Yes, it is in fact the segs number. Nice.
That's the opening to Fearmonger's doctoral dissertation.
Nice. All right. I wrote back to Carl Weiland and explained that the quote I was interested in was from a personal letter, and as such could hardly be referenced in the library. He was unsympathetic, and so as a last resort, I took Weiland's own advice and set about contacting Dr. Patterson personally. Weiland only has himself to blame for the response. I phoned the British Museum of Natural History, and to my delight, discovered that Dr. Patterson was still working there. I faxed him the text of the quote and asked him whether my interpretation, the Creationist interpretation, or some other interpretation of his words was correct. His reply is dated 16 August 1993. Also, we're probably going to stop reading after this letter and get back to Carl. Because I don't want to go too long over this. Dear Mr. Thunison, look, I'm pretty sure that this is some kind of like Scandinavian name and that I'm saying it wrong. If you happen to be from some place where this is a common name, please let me know how to actually pronounce it. Anyway, sorry to have taken so long to answer your letter of July 9th. I was away for a while and then infernally busy. I like this guy's letter writing style already. I seem fated. I still like it. I seem fated continually to make a fool of myself with Creationists. No, man. You and a lot of other good scientists. The specific quote you mentioned from a letter to Sunderland dated 10th April 1979 is accurate as far as it goes. The passage quoted continues a watertight argument. The reason is that statements about ancestry and descendant are not applicable in the fossil record. Is Archaepteryx the ancestor of all birds? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. I would be firmly on the no side on that one, by the way. There is no way of answering the question. It is easy enough to make up stories of how to go from what. Sorry, it is easy enough to make up stories of how one form gave rise to another, and to find reasons why the stages should be favored by natural selection. But such stories are not part of science, for there is no way to put them to the test. I think the continuation of the passage shows clearly that your interpretation at the end of your letter is correct, and the Creationist is false. The brush with Sutherland, I had never heard of him before.
I'd never heard of him before.
Of course. Was my first experience of Creationists. The famous keynote address at the American Museum of Natural History in 1981 was nothing of the sort. It was a talk to the systematics discussion group and the museum, an extremely informal group. I had been asked to talk to them on evolutionism and creationism. Fired up by a paper by Ernst Mayr, published in Science just the week before, I gave a fairly rumbustious? That's a new word. I've never heard that word before. A fairly rumbustious talk. Anyone who wants to drop that definition, please do. Arguing that the theory of evolution has done more harm than good to biological systematic classification. Unknown to me, there was a creationist in the audience with a hidden tape recorder, of course. So,
oh my god.
So much the worse for me. But my talk was addressed to professional systematists and concerned systematics, nothing else. I hope that by now I have learned to be more circumspect in dealing with creationists, cryptic or overt. But I still maintain that skepticism is the scientist's duty, however much the stance may expose us to ridicule. Yours sincerely, with signature, Colin Patterson. So, yeah, I think that's more than enough to show why Duane Gish is quote mining here. Pelagic Tunicate Truth Official, there we go. Remember, for 4 months says selectively breeding specific animals is eugenics. Yeah, technically. Yeah. I mean, what eugenics is ultimately selective breeding applied to humans. It's ultimately what it is. The difference is that humans are the kind of thing that most other humans think should be accorded things like, you know, agency that needs to be respected. Which means that
It's of rage.
Yeah, which means that if you don't respect their agency and you just restrict their ability to reproduce because you say that they have undesirable traits, that makes you the jerk. Pelagic Tunicat sauropods sound like geckos B2022 for £5 says, someone once asked me who the best YEC was. It's like asking who's the creme de la creme when all the candidates are at the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, it's sort of like oh hey, who has the tallest chihuahua? Like who cares? They're all still going to be tiny.
So I want to quote Fits of Rage.
Okay, do it.
Who asks, "Do I drink for Dapper Dinosaur mentioning the NSDAP?"
Ooh, yeah, let's do it. It was true. It was me who brought up the NSDAP. Yeah. Although I maintain that it was a pretty reasonable one, where it's like, hey, you going to avoid the Autobahn in Germany just because it was made by those jerks? No, probably not. I'm not going to say that you driving on that highway means that you're a sympathizer. No. It's just a highway. It's a road.
Greatest collection of fossils in the world. He says, you're right. I don't have any examples of transitional forms in my book.
Except that's not really what he said, is it?
But if I had known of any, I certainly would have included him. We see then the fossil record powerfully supports creation, but is directly contradictory to the theory of evolution.
I'm just going to take a drink for that. It's not. It's absolutely in line with evolution. All right, we've only got 2 minutes and 44 seconds, and he's already off of birds, which I actually stopped it last time right at Archaepteryx because I figured that would be a great jumping off point because he'd get into the whole thing. Instead, no, he just kind of glossed over it, which is disappointing.
Thank you.
Wait, that's it?
Ken, before the program, you mentioned Dr. Gish's book, Evolution.
We're back to very, very ape-like Ken Ham. I love how
ape-like cosplaying Wolverine.
Yeah, serious. I love just how much like a chimpanzee Ken Ham looks, especially in his younger photos. Well, he's like, humans aren't apes. It's like, dude, if you looked in a mirror, like, if you were just a tiny bit hairier and, like, naked, Jane Goodall would probably want to be your friend.
The Fossils Say No.
Yes, a very famous book, John, but it's now been...
I have a revised edition of this. It's trash.
revised and updated and replaced by this one, Evolution, the Challenge of the Fossil Record.
Oh, wait. No, I don't have that. I have the Evolution, the Fossils Still Say No. That's a... I've never heard of this edition, Evolution, the Challenge of the Fossil Record. Huh. Might have to look for it.
And in here, he documents those large gaps he talked about in the fossil record. Also has a wonderful chapter dealing with the ape-men transitions and the fact of missing links, which, by the way, are still missing.
Okay.
Yeah, except for all the times that they are... Right, yeah, Dr. Banjo. Aha, I have you now. For where is the link between this supposed primitive ape and this Australopithecus sediba? Oh, we found it. It's Sahelanthropus chilensis. Ah, you proved my point, sir. For where is the missing link between these primitive apes and this so-called Sahelanthropus chilensis? Yeah, it just keeps on going. Although I've got to say, I really like this. I think it's a lion skull. It's a cat skull, at least. I like it. It's very cool. I want one.
Actually, great resource for high school and college students, but kids love fossils as well, don't they? And there's a number of books written for children on the...
I mean, kids like dinosaurs. Do they like fossils per se? I don't really know.
Per se.
Goodness. I now can't say those words anymore. Because it is 2 words, not 1 word. But really though, like, I know that kids like dinosaurs, right? But do they actually like the actual fossils? I don't know. If you have kids and they specifically like fossils, please let me know. Because I would be interested to know that kids actually like the fossils and not just the animals that they're the remains of.
Fossil record. This one by Dr. Gary Parker, Dry Bones and Other Fossils. This one for the junior high and high school students.
Okay, this is just
going
to be a commercial. I love how they're
still drawing the T-Rex upright. That's so great.
Although this was actually at the time when I don't think that, like, the horizontal spine T-Rex was common. But look, the rest of this is just a book commercial, so I'm not going to play the rest of it.
I am so proud that my mission to stall for this entire stream worked.
Nice.
We got almost 2 hours out of a 9-minute video, and thank you, chat.
You guys really are awesome, chat. Pelagic Tuna Cat, Sauropods Sound Like Geckos, B2022, for £2 says, the only missing links are between Ken's synapses. Ooh. Ooh. That is
amazing.
That is savage, and I love it. All right, guys. So, yeah, that's the show for today. Vishanti, do you have anything that you want to announce that's coming up?
Just working on some collabs with other creators. They're in progress.
Okay.
Also, my Vish list is in the description.
The Vish list. Savage quotes from random note cards Cobra for $5 says, "You've heard Young Earth Creationist drone on about gaps in the fossil record. Get ready for the Young Earth Creationist credibility gap." Oh, it's a pretty wide gap right there. Let me tell you, it's a gaping chasm. Rosina Keller for $1.99 says, "Can you elaborate on ape men?" I mean, ape man is one of those weird terms, right? Because it's like, well, what does it mean? Well, it means a part human, part ape, I guess. But that's the same as asking, like, hey, have you ever seen a part lizard, part reptile? Or a part trout, part fish? What is... No, yes,
part
no.
mammal, part human.
Right, like, it's just like it
what?
doesn't make much sense. But usually what it means is, something that's more closely related to a human than it is to any other ape, but that still has relatively basal characteristics, right? And we have a whole bunch of those. We got dozens of them. If you want a really good rundown, I would suggest going over to like Gutsa Gibbons' channel, or Erica. She has numerous videos about physical paleoanthropology and stuff like that. And creationists like to just pretend that you can put all the fossils very clearly into the ape category or the human category. But the reason that we can be pretty conclusive that that's just nonsense and that no, you can't, is that they don't even agree, not just between each other, but with themselves. The same creationist doesn't always agree with himself about which ones are obviously humans and which ones are obviously apes, even though it's apparently clear as day to anyone who doesn't have a evolutionary blinders on or something. So, yeah. Now, let's take a look at what is coming up ahead of us. So, now, next week, Vishanti, you are going to be here, so we can do another, whether it be a Gish with Vish or a Dapper Reacts or something, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I want some input from you as to what you would like to do. Because we can find another Gish one, or we can just find another random video, because if you're tired of Gish, I don't want to force another series of Gish videos on you. But on the 2nd, you're not going to be here. You're going to be off busy having fun with a bunch of nerds.
Yep.
And instead, I'm going to be having Dr. Zach B. Hancock, an evolutionary biologist, population geneticist, on. We're going to talk about how he used to be a Young Earth creationist and no longer is. So we're doing a Leaving Young Earth Creationism with Dr. Zach B. Hancock. Now, closer to now, on the 22nd at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing Jackson with Jackson. Jackson Wheat and I are going to talk about Dr. Charles Jackson, whom I actually emailed not that long ago, and I just haven't heard back from. It's been about a week. I'm probably going to give up on ever hearing back from him. Then on Thursday, the 24th, we're going to be having a premiere of one of my supercuts. But I want to make sure I get the right one so I don't lie to y'all. Oh, yes, it's The Creationists Who Can't Math the Movie. So that's about Jeffrey Tompkins. There's a lot of Jeffrey Tompkins stuff happening lately with the Robert Carter video.
He wasn't so garbage at his work.
Yeah, I mean, this is a PhD geneticist who can't add 2 3-digit numbers correctly.
Can't weight his averages.
Yeah, can't weight his averages. Yeah, no. It's like, I like the example that Erica used before, which is like, hey, if you take the grade that you got on every little quiz and your attendance score and every test, right, and you just average the grade that you got on each one, right, if everyone was given to you as a percentage, then said, well, that's my grade. Well, no. What if your midterm and your final are worth 100 points, but attendance is only worth 5 points, and each quiz is only worth 10 points? You can't just pretend that if you got a 95% on the quiz and an 85% on the the final, that you can just average those percentages together naively. You have to take the total number of points that you earned versus the total number of points you could earn, and then you can average them. Tompkins is just like, nah, I don't need to do that. That's unimportant. Except that, when you actually do the math right, his numbers come back with perfectly conventional 96+% sequence identity between chimpanzee genomes and human genomes. Whoops.
But he doesn't like that,
Yeah.
so
he does the math wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
On Thursday we're going to be having a video come out about that, and then as I said on Saturday, at this time spot, we'll be back with the always lovely Vishanti, who definitely owes another set of feeders. I think you figured that one out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so more feeders next time. And I will be putting up a poll as to which avatar I should use in the next video that I produce after the one where I did Cyber Dapper, which, by the way, has already been produced. So this will be the next one I do after that. But with that, unless you have anything else that you want to add, Vishanti, we're going to get out of here.
Well, this is a fun one.
Yeah, this was.
Go take a nap.
That Talk Origins thing was just hilarious to read.
Oh my god, incredible.
And note cards. All right, if you are a part of my supporters Discord, that's for channel members and patrons, we will be heading over there and doing Power Rangers in space in just a few minutes. So I hope to see some of you over there for that, and I hope to see everyone here over on Tuesday for Jackson with Jackson. Bye, everybody.
Yay.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovind, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Elron Teller, Phil Havara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Mrs. Spexinder, Sphincter of Doom, and the Venerable Bede. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.